For the District 7 representative race, I will go through the format for you just so you have the numbers as far as time constraints. Each candidate, Mr. Snider, will have 2 minutes for his opening statement, and also he will have 2 minutes to answer 3 particular questions that the Candidate Forum Committee has prepared, as well as an alternate question. You will have 2 minutes to answer each of those, and then you will have 2 minutes to give your closing statement.
Excuse me, before we start, do you have enough time on there?
I have 31 minutes.
Okay, that'll be good. We're recording today, so just to make sure we have time on our camera. Okay, Mr. Snider, thank you for being patient today. And let's start with this. Yeah, our 2-minute opening statement. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Snider.
Hello, I'm Sam Snider, and many of you have seen me at different meetings, and I appreciate your time today. I appreciate the effort you made to be here. I'm a 30-year veteran teacher. I retired in October, but I'm still coaching, and my wife of over 30 years, Carla, is here with me, and I'm very grateful for that. My son David will be graduating again this evening. They had one to college. They have one tonight. He's finished his doctorate in physical therapy. My son Joshua coached at Gilmer for a while, and he's now at Gilmer with me. I wanted to say, first of all, that I support hunting for teenagers. I don't know what you've heard on Pandora or TV ads. My sons have hunted since they were very young. I got my hunter's training at 12 years old in Dexter, Missouri in 1975. And if you'll ignore some of the ludicrous things that's been said about me and think about what the last 30 years have meant, as I've been an integral part of Gilmer County, I think you'll find the truth. The second thing is, I am for public education. I'm for all education, but as a 30-year public educator, I'm for it. So when I say, don't believe everything you hear, I'm going to give you a few facts that will continue to come out. The Stone Ridge Group manages the domain of CoachSamSnider.com. That's not my website. That was put up in January to defame my name. That website is referred to by the commercials of my opponent to also defame my name. And guess who manages those websites for him? SRG, Stone Ridge Group. If you do a back IP search, you find that David Ralston's websites, Parlay Political's websites, and the website to defame my name all come from the same IP address. So when it refers to an IP address or a domain that they created, I would not believe that information. Go back and look at the history that I have in my life. And the facts are more important. $1 billion tax increase last year for transportation. It was already a consumption tax of 7%. $1 billion. Blocked RIFRA from being voted on, has bully politic Josh McCoons the entire time as the sponsor of RIFRA. I am asking for your vote. I'm an honest man, and I believe I'll do a good job for you. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Snider, the 2 minutes. If elected, what would be your first priority for this beautiful Fannin County we're here at today, and how would you implement that?
For Fannin County, my first implementation would be to listen to the people of this county as well as Gilmer and Dawson, because your values, I believe, are very similar to my values. I would want to go from place to place every opportunity I could to hear what's of most value to you. It's probably related to the economy. It's probably related to our own religious freedoms. It's probably related to less taxation, less frustration. There's a lot of things that you might be concerned about. But I don't need to set the priority. As your representative and your diplomat, basically, to the House of Representatives, I need to find out what's most important for you. I know the teachers of this county are not ready for a merit pay. But if next year happens and Mr. Deal has his way, there will be a merit pay for teachers. Trust me, it's a non-election year. The only reason it didn't happen this year is because it is an election year. I would also push for a constitutional carry as much as we could. I am not against guns in any way whatsoever. Every issue that we believe in this county, I will be your advocate there. I'm not going to be owned by $500,000 in gifts from anybody outside this county. I don't need them. I'm very happy being a grandfather. I'm very happy being retired as a coach, but I'm not happy with the future of this country at this point. I'm very nervous about it. And until we remove career establishment politicians and replace them with citizens, this republic is in jeopardy. And I'd like to begin with the very top of that area. I would like to begin with the head of the snake, remove that. And I would like to find a conservative that I would vote for in that situation to lead our House of Representatives, because there's a lot of good bills that came from the Senate last year that never got voted on. And if you'll do a little study, you'll find bully politics are still happening at the House of Representatives.
Okay, Mr. Snider, also 2 minutes for this question. Let me explain this. English is currently the official language of Georgia, but it's not in the Constitution of the state of Georgia. This past year there was a bill that offered that did not get voted on. Would you support English being a constitutional amendment to the state of Georgia, and that would mean for a referendum for the voters of Georgia to make that choice? Do you understand the question, sir?
I fully understand the question. The Senate did an outstanding job, passed 2 bills in the Senate that did not even get a vote in the House, even though they were vetted and pushed through the Senate. The first one was English as the primary language of our state. Simple question. The good thing was it was only asked to be put on the ballot for you and me to vote on. It wasn't going to be crammed down our throat. It was an offer to put it on the ballot. Why are we afraid to put it on the ballot? Why did it not even get a vote, up or down, green or red, in the House? Yes, I would support giving the voters of this state an opportunity to vote for English to be the language, so that we don't have to put a driver's test in 11 different languages. There's reasons financially to not have to do this. Now, as a teacher, if I teach a student who has a language concern, I'm going to use every means possible to help them learn. But I think English would be the language of this state. Secondly, would have to be the driver's education bill that got stopped. Not the driver's education, the driver's license. Illegal aliens are now allowed to have a license which is exactly the same as anyone else. I'm not opposed at this point, not wanting to take away licenses from everyone, but I think they should have a different license, because that license recognizes them now as if they were a normal citizen. There's something about illegal aliens that doesn't sound like a normal citizen in my book. So that's a second bill similar to the first one, and it's not to be in any way discriminatory. It's to protect the rights that we have here as citizens of this country, living here and working here. I think English is the language of our state, and I also think that the license bill is quite important.
Okay, Mr. Snider, in the Tea Party Patriots name, T stands for taxed enough already.
Yes.
Last year, a transportation bill was passed that raised taxes. Could you explain how this benefited the citizens of Fannin County?
I looked at the next 18 months. There is one project considered for our county here in Fannin. There are 2 in Ellijay. One of those is the traffic and one of those are repaving. And there's all kinds of other projects spread out throughout the state. Prior to this bill, there was $2 billion for the DOT, and that's what they ran their budget on. After it, there's now $3 billion. I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea of DOT having more money, but if we continue to say that we've cut taxes, and our spending by our state government in 2010 was $18.3 billion, and next year's $23.7 billion, $5.4 billion increase over a 6-year period seems a bit excessive. Why could we not have moved money over to the DOT without raising the taxes? I do agree with a flat tax. The 7% was already a flat consumption tax. We just went to an excise. But now we've added $5 per hotel room for every night to raise $200 million more for DOT. We've added $50 to $100 spent on the size of your vehicle on the roads. These continual taxation increases are against the principles of the North Georgia Tea Party. And they're against my principles as a Tea Party activist and as a Republican and as someone who believes that I would rather use my money for my purposes. And government should be less. Let's begin by not having people chauffeured around in 3 vehicles. Let's let people drive themselves. Let's see what the fluff at the top has before we continue to tax us, the taxpayers. That's my answer to that question. Thank you, Brian.
Okay, and this is our final question before closing statement. We asked this question to the senators, candidates of 51st District. We'd like to ask you the same thing. Would you support casino gambling? If not, why not?
At this point, I've seen in other states that with casino gambling comes other things that you and I would probably not agree with. Is there a problem for someone to go up to Murphy or to some other place where there's a casino and they got $50 and they go to entertainment? That's not an issue. The issue is that person who is spending so much of their hard-earned money that they're wind up costing their family the ability to pay for food. That's a difficult thing. So normally with gambling, there does come some element of crime. So at this point in the state of Georgia, I would be opposed to casino gambling. My opponent has received funds, I think it's $5,000 according to his ethics report, from the casino gambling and horse racing folks. I don't know if that will sway his decision, but I would be opposed at this time to that. If you had $500,000 given to you since July, and only $15,000 of it came from your district, where would your vote be? That $485,000 came from PACs, paving companies, other special interests all across this nation, not just this state, this nation. I think you know who has bought the vote. My vote is not going to be bought. My vote is going to be offered as a representation of you. Thank you, Brian.
Okay, now it is time for a 2-minute closing.
Thank you. I went ahead and made some notes on this because I thought it might be interesting. In 2008 and 2010, I go back and do a little research. At that time, we had a Speaker of the House that was in trouble. And David Ralston stood up and faced that man. That man was going through a horrendous personal life. He was being unfaithful to his wife. That man who was in office at that time was an alcoholic. That man was a disgrace to the office. And David Ralston risked himself at that time politically to go up there and take that person down and step into that role. And you know what? That David Ralston is the same one that allowed my wrestling team to come to the house and be recognized for one of our 17 state championships. But you know what's sad? It's after 6 years. After 6 years, that man from 2010 that was ousted has reappeared. He has reappeared. And we now have someone who is just as much of a bully politician as that other man was. David Ralston promised in 2010 to give equal representation to 100 people in the House of Representatives. Go ask Josh McCoons about equal representation from the Senate. They won't even hear one of his bills because he opposed the governor or he opposed the speaker at some point in time. You know that you can look at my life as a 30-year teacher, as a 30-year married to my wife, faithful in everything that I'm doing. You can look at my history and you can see what kind of person I am. I'm not going to change that person. I will not sacrifice my family for this political position at any point. Now you take a look at my opponent and you decide who represents your county. I can't say it any plainer. You may think that's a cut, but that's a fact. We need equal representation by every member of the House to equally represent the whole state. Look up Josh McCoons under Ledger, Columbus Ledger. Look at what they've done to a good man like that who fought for religious freedom. Look at how much money they've taken from his district. $10 million, $100,000 just last week to punish him. And they openly say, Speaker Ralston and Nathan Deal openly say is to punish him for standing up against the establishment. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Snider. Thank you very much for all of your comments today on the 7th District race. Okay.